the hardest part of being a writer, I think, has nothing to do with the actual writing process itself. I think it's more of the lifestyle aspect. Because if you want to be a full-time writer professionally, then that means you're doing everything yourself. You're working from home for yourself. You don't have a traditional workplace. You don't have set working hours. You don't have a boss expecting you to be there. The only person you're doing anything for is you. And you're doing it in your own home, and you're doing everything yourself. And I think that is the one thing that is the biggest problem for me as a writer personally, because that requires me to have a certain mindset that I don't know I have, or at least I haven't developed yet. I think it's a mindset I could develop as I go on, but I don't struggle with the writing process. I do consider myself a very good writer, but the most difficult part of being a writer isn't the writing. It's basically relying on myself to make things happen for me. Because I am not very good at taking care of myself, as you can probably tell. I do frequently let myself descend into lack of personal discipline. Is in Jordan Peterson's book 12 Rules for Life, one of the rules he writes about is to treat yourself as though you are someone you're responsible for helping. In other words, you have to think of yourself as a sort of being your own carer. You, if you were caring for someone who couldn't help themselves, you would make sure that they get up in the morning, and that they get dressed, and that they feed themselves, and that they do those basic things. And as a writer, this is something I struggle with, because I'm not on the clock. I'm not making sure that I turn up so that I can get my paycheck at the end of the week, because that's not how it works. It's more that the only person who can make it happen is me. And I am just not very good at that. Mainly because I think one of the things that appeals to me about writing is that I can do it from home, and I don't have to get dressed, and I don't have to get up at the crack of dawn. Writing is, and people don't really talk about this aspect of it, but it's true. If you're able to be a writer professionally, that is a level of privilege that a lot of people don't have. Most people aren't in a position where they can do that, where they can just set their own working hours and work for themselves. And when you're a writer, that is something that you are lucky to have. It can also be a double-edged sword, though, because it means no one's going to help you. You won't have any immediate incentives. I would like to get the book done. That's the reason I keep writing it, because I want to get it finished. But I could get it finished much sooner if I wrote more every day. And the reason I don't is because I prevaricate, and not just that, I also don't really take care of myself, which leaves me feeling unmotivated, because I'm not doing the things that motivate a person to actually do things in the day. And that is something I'm constantly battling with, and I don't know if I'm ever going to solve that. Maybe it's just the way I am. That does sound a bit defeatist. On the other hand, though, when you're doing a creative pursuit like this, you have to figure out how to make it work for you. Because I have tried forcing myself to be more efficient and productive by setting alarms early. It doesn't work. I know I'm just not that sort of person. And that means that I have had to accept that sometimes I will be going very slowly, and sometimes I'll be making no progress at all, because I'll wake up and the thing in my brain just hasn't activated to make me do the things that I know I need to do if I want to make stuff happen. Sometimes it's like a kind of phantom paralysis, like I'm screaming at myself internally to just get the hell out of bed, and watching myself not do that. And it's very surreal and trippy. And that's not what I expected to happen when I set out as a writer. But that's something I've discovered. So that's been difficult to deal with. And the thing is, I also know that if I want to be a professional writer, I don't get paid for feeling in the mood. Being inspired is not what pays the bills. And that's true of any job. You get paid for doing the job, not for feeling in the mood for doing it, not for feeling inspired for doing it, not for being in the right frame of mind for doing it. You just get paid for doing it, because that's what the job is. It's something that you do, not something that you want to do. And if I want to be a writer, then I have to just write, because a writer writes, you know? Charlie Brooker made an episode of Screen Wipe where he interviewed multiple TV writers, and one of them, his name escapes me, but he created Hustle. And there's this one moment in that episode where he just stops beating around with all the bullshit, and he just says it straight up. A writer writes. The clue is in the name. Writer, fucking write something. And he's right. That's what a writer should do. But at the same time, writers are artists, and artists are weird people. Artists have issues. Artists are people who can't really do anything else. If I were a software engineer, I would definitely be doing that. If I had the right kind of brain for writing code, I would definitely not be wasting my life trying to crack out a novel at all, you know? If I were an engineer, there are plenty of high-paying engineering jobs. We'll always need engineers. You know, technology marches on, but we need the people to run the technology and to make it. And if I had the brain for being an engineer, I definitely wouldn't be wasting my life as an artist. But unfortunately, I got that curse. It's the only thing I'm good at, and it's the only thing I want to do. And along with that comes certain stuff in my brain. Like, I don't think you'll ever meet an artist who actually functions the way a person is supposed to function. Most people seem to at least have a basic level of having their life together. They have issues, sure, there are problems they're facing, things aren't perfect, but they are at least going about whatever life they are trying to hold together. An artist, sometimes it's not even that. We are not normal. We have stuff holding us back, psychologically, emotionally, that can also work against our own process and can also work against our own desires. And it's weird, and it's very stressful and tiring to actually have to put up with that. And I don't think there's a solution to it. I think maybe it's just the way I am as a writer. That's just what writing is. That's the nature of being a writer. It's like it fights you. It pushes back against you. Like the art doesn't want to happen. And it's trying to stop you in every way it can. What I'd love to be able to say is, well, I want to get this book written, so that's what I'm doing. I'm just getting up and I'm just getting on with it. I'm just writing it, and that's what I do. That's not what I do, because that's not how it works. And I don't know why that's not how it works, but it isn't. It's very, very, very confusing. I don't really understand it. But that's what being a writer is like. I just wish I had my shit together. But I don't. I don't look after myself. I don't treat myself well. There was this one day when I realised, because I write with my Chromebook and I keep my Chromebook in my bedroom, just sort of at the end of my bed. And this one day I realised, you know what? Maybe if I just grab my Chromebook before I even get out of bed, I can immediately start writing. And I can know I've actually written something today, even before I've managed to eventually persuade myself to have breakfast, which is so difficult. Because apparently it is for me. Just the act of making myself do it. It's weird. And I need to do that more often. Maybe I should keep it by the side of my bed. That might help. Possibly. Just to basically allow myself to be lazy and then work into that the things I want to do. So that I can get both. Maybe that's it. Or maybe I need to do the opposite of that and fight back against the laziness. Maybe. I don't know. But right now I feel as though I'm my own worst enemy. And as though I'm actively working against my own interests for reasons that I don't understand. And the thing is, writing is pretty much the only thing I'm going to spend my life doing. And if this is what being a writer is like, that's what my whole life is going to be like. How the hell is that going to work out? I can't live my life like that, can I? I mean, I know if it's what works for me, it's what works for me, but it really doesn't, because it just leaves me feeling so fucking depressed. I'm not depressed, but the things I end up not doing out of choice create the right conditions for feeling depressed. You know, I'm displaying the lifestyle symptoms of a depressed person, not because I am depressed, but because I'm just choosing to live like that. And I don't know why. It's I don't really have a conclusion to make. I think this is just an open-ended problem. And hopefully I'm right about this, and it is just the state of being a writer and what being a writer is like. Especially if you don't really have anything else going on at all. Because I don't want to have anything else going on. I have no interest in starting a family at all. I think the idea of working like a proper job is absolute hell. I rarely go out of the house, so what am I even doing if I'm not writing? I just maybe talking about it will help. And now that I've got these feelings out of me, maybe I've just sort of expunged it from my system, and I might feel more lively and enthusiastic going on. I don't know, maybe that might be it. But even when I do have like this period when I'm finally feeling like I'm working past it, that only lasts for about 2 weeks, and then I just go back to how it was. It's like I just sort of swing from one thing to another. I can't even predict my own actions anymore. So I'd love to say that I've come up with an idea for what I could do to make things better, and that I'm going to try that out over next week. And in next week's video, I'll talk about that and see if that worked. But I have no ideas. I don't really know what to do. but I just needed to talk about this because this is the thing that's on my mind right now. Because then I end up hating myself. I just feel so guilty. Why am I choosing to do this to myself? Why am I sabotaging my own life? Why am I getting in the way of my own success? I don't know. But just the lengths and extremities I'll go to make it difficult for myself to do the things that I want to do. So that's all I really have to say. I know this sounded kind of cynical, and it probably is. But that's just the way things are for me right now.